30th anniversary.
30th anniversary, one of my favorite movies. I love it. I love Steve Guttenberg. I love Ted Danson.
Instantly appeared to be the obvious ingredients for the blockbuster of the year at the time.
In 1987, millions of families rented Three Men and a Baby on VHS. They watched it once for laughs. Then, something strange happened. People started calling video stores asking about a scene 1 hour into the movie. Behind the curtains, something appeared that shouldn't be there. It looked like a small boy standing perfectly still. Rumors exploded across America. Some said it was the ghost of a child who died in the apartment. Others claimed Disney tried to cover it up. The truth was hidden for decades. What people actually saw will shock you. In France in 1985, a small local comedy walked into theaters and quietly took over the entire country. It was called Trois Hommes et un Couffin, and it opened on September 18, 1985. People expected a simple joke-filled story. Instead, it became a national event. More than 10 million people in France went to see it, which was huge for a local film in the 1980s. It did not just hold its own. That year, it outperformed giants like Rambo the Show and Back to the Future at the French box office. The secret was not big explosions or special effects. It was the way it followed three ordinary bachelors named Jacques, Pierre, and Michel, who suddenly found a baby at their door and had to raise her together. Soon, Hollywood stepped in. Disney's Touchstone Pictures bought the rights and shifted everything across the ocean. They replaced Paris with New York City and filled the cast with Ted Danson, Tom Selleck, and Steve Guttenberg. When Three Men and a Baby premiered on November 25, 1987, it exploded. It earned more than $167 million at the U.S. box office on an $11 million budget and became one of the biggest comedies of its time. But the tone changed. Hollywood smoothed the edges and softened the struggle. The mother became a stylish New York socialite, and the men's problems turned into playful mishaps instead of real pressure. Even the darker French subplot involving a drug dealer was swapped for something family-friendly. It worked for American audiences and made the film easier to digest, but many viewers felt that something in the original soul had faded along the way. Still, the movie became the first Disney film to ever top the North American box office. The idea kept traveling. Trois Hommes et un Couffin sparked at least 9 more remakes across 7 languages. The story reached South Korea, Russia, Latin America, and several other places. Each country reshaped the plot to fit its own culture, but the heart stayed the same. 3 men meet a baby, and everything changes. The original French film's 10 million admissions proved that the theme was powerful enough to cross borders without losing its spark. It showed Hollywood and everyone else that average men thrown into an extraordinary situation make a story people can't resist. But then came the moment no one expected. In 1987, the French director Colin Serrault stepped away from the American remake, and producers scrambled. Somehow, the job landed in the hands of Leonard Nimoy. Most people knew him only as Mr. Spock from Star Trek. He was calm, logical, and serious. Hardly the guy you'd imagine directing a comedy about 3 bachelors and a baby. But he had just directed Star Trek III in 1984 and Star Trek IV in 1986. The second one became one of the most successful Star Trek films ever, both financially and with critics. That success made him valuable in Hollywood. Even then, giving him this film was a surprise. Before 3 Men and a Baby, he had only directed 2 movies and 1 TV episode back in 1973. Fans were confused, critics were doubtful, yet Nimoy stepped in anyway. It was a risky shift for him. He was known for science fiction, not warm family comedy. Until then, his directing career lived inside the Star Trek world. Going from saving Earth with futuristic spaceships to watching 3 grown men struggle with diapers felt like a wild jump. Many people doubted he could handle humor. Comedies were not respected the same way action or sci-fi movies were. Still, he wanted to try. This film was only his 3rd feature as a director, and he saw it as a chance to show he was more than Mr. Spock. He pushed himself into unfamiliar territory because he wanted to prove his range. On set, Nimoy did something smart. He focused on building real chemistry. He wanted Steve Guttenberg, Tom Selleck, and Ted Danson to feel like an actual family. So he encouraged them to eat dinner together, hang out, and bond outside the studio. Steve Guttenberg later said those simple dinners helped them become real friends, which made their scenes feel natural and alive. This wasn't common in Hollywood comedies at the time. Most casts finished rehearsals and went home. But Nimoy believed closeness would make everything better on screen. The actors remembered that feeling for years, and the warmth created during those dinners helped shape the heart of the movie. Behind all that bonding, there were still clashes. Tom Selleck and Ted Danson were huge TV stars in 1987. Selleck was leading Magnum, PI, with more than 23 million viewers in 1984. Danson was ruling Cheers with nearly 20 million viewers at its peak. Both were used to being in charge. Both had strong opinions, so they pushed back against Nimoy's decisions more than once. Steve Guttenberg later joked that they all learned the real boss was Nimoy. Those heated moments on set, while stressful, ended up helping the film. The tension gave the actors a sharper dynamic that carried into their performances and made the comedy feel more alive. Casting the three men was a major moment. Tom Selleck said yes, even though Magnum PI was still airing from 1980 to 1988. Producers knew his presence would draw millions, and they were right. His role as Peter Mitchell made the film stronger and helped push it to the #1 spot of 1987 in North America. Ted Danson juggled the film with his Cheers schedule. He played Sam Malone on a show watched by millions every week. His timing and natural charm made him vital to the ensemble. When the movie came out during the holiday season, Danson's popularity helped pull in even more attention. Then there was Steve Guttenberg, the youngest at just 28. He was already famous from Police Academy, which began in 1984 and earned $149 million worldwide from the first film alone. His youthful energy brought fresh humor, and younger audiences connected with him instantly. The film opened with more than $12 million in its first weekend, the biggest opening for a Disney release at the time. Nancy Travis stepped into her breakout role as Sylvia Bennington. She wasn't a big name then, but her presence added heart to the story. Her natural chemistry with the three men tied the emotional pieces together. The movie's giant success turned her into a recognizable face almost overnight, leading to roles in Look Who's Talking and later The King of Queens. She became the balancing point that kept the story grounded. And the baby who stole the audience's hearts was actually two babies. Twins Lisa and Michelle Blair took turns playing Baby Mary. Hollywood often uses twins because infant work hours are limited by strict laws. Each twin could only be on set for short periods, so alternating them helped the production finish scenes quickly, while keeping both girls rested and safe. They were around 10 months old during filming, and their innocent expressions ended up on posters, commercials, and countless family memories. Their presence helped the movie reach legendary status and became an early example of how Hollywood handled infant roles behind the scenes. Three Men and a Baby arrived on November 25, 1987, right on Thanksgiving weekend, when families were already heading to theaters. It opened in 1,006 theaters across the country and pulled in $10.38 million in its first weekend. That number almost matched its entire $11 million production budget. The moment it hit the screen, people showed up, and the studio knew they had something big on their hands. The timing was perfect. The audience wanted something light, and this comedy slipped right into that space with ease, letting the momentum build without slowing down. As the weeks went on, it didn't just perform well, it dominated. It became the highest-grossing film of 1987 in the United States and Canada, beating heavy hitters like Fatal Attraction. By the time the year wrapped up, it had stacked to $167.78 million domestically. Then, the international numbers pushed it even higher, reaching a worldwide total of $240 million. That achievement made history at Disney because it turned into the studio's first movie to cross $100 million domestically during its initial theatrical run. Suddenly, the movie went from a simple comedy to a milestone that changed expectations for future Disney releases. Financially, the returns were almost unreal. Three Men and a Baby made around 2,082% of its original $11 million budget. It brought in more than 20 times what it cost to make. For a small-budget comedy, this kind of performance was rare in the 1980s. It showed that with timing, clever marketing, and a story people connected with, a movie didn't need massive effects or huge action stars to break out. Thanksgiving weekend helped launch it, but the audience kept it alive long after the holiday ended. The movie then held the #1 spot for 5 straight weeks, from late November 1987 through early January 1988. Its strongest weekend didn't even come in its first days. It happened later, between January 1st and January 3rd of 1988, when it earned $13.1 million. Even when the holiday season faded, people kept coming back. It proved it wasn't just a seasonal hit, it was something families came back to for a warm laugh and a familiar story. That steady crowd kept boosting its legacy until it turned into a true holiday favorite. Soon, the success moved beyond numbers. In 1988, the movie won the People's Choice Award for Favorite Comedy Motion Picture. It showed that audiences didn't just buy tickets, they genuinely loved it. The award captured the film's spirit at the time. It wasn't just a comedy, it had heart, charm, and a simple warmth that stuck with people long after they left the theater. And then came the legend, a strange little moment that turned into one of the biggest movie myths of the VHS era. About an hour into the movie, as Jack's mother walks through the room, something odd appears behind the curtains. It looks like the shape of a small boy standing still and watching. The figure is dark and human-shaped, and for years people swore it was the ghost of a boy who died in the apartment, where they thought the scene was filmed. The rumor grew into a full story. People said a 9-year-old had taken his own life there and that his mother sued Disney, losing her mind in the process. But none of it was true. The figure behind the curtain was nothing more than a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson wearing a tuxedo and a top hat. It was a prop from a deleted scene about Jack's acting career. The crew simply forgot to remove it during filming. Even Tom Selleck talked about it on The Tonight Show in 2017, explaining how the soundstage in Toronto had no apartment, no tragedy, and no ghost. Just a forgotten cutout that stayed in the background a bit too long. Still, the myth grew fast. When the VHS version came out, people paused and rewound the scene trying to figure out what they were seeing. The low resolution made everything blurry. Shadows blended together. The cutout looked smaller than it was. On a home TV, behind curtains and grainy tape lines, it was easy to mistake the shape for a child. Tabloids jumped in. Talk shows repeated the rumor. People claimed they saw eyes and movement. Some even said they knew the grieving mother, yet no record of a lawsuit exists. There was no death and no apartment connected to any filming location. The whole story lived only in the imagination of viewers who filled in the gaps left by poor picture quality. Later in the movie, the same cardboard cutout appears more clearly in Jack's bedroom. That closer shot reveals it fully in view, showing Ted Danson in a tuxedo with a top hat. Even then, some fans refused to give up the ghost story. They insisted the cutout and the boy behind the curtain looked different. They said someone must have moved it. But researchers, critics, and movie historians all confirmed the same thing after reviewing the footage frame by frame. It was always the same prop, a flat piece of cardboard, nothing more, left behind after a deleted scene and never caught by the crew. By the late 1980s, the low quality of VHS tapes played a huge part in fueling the myth. Home video at that time was often grainy and soft. People paused scenes and stared at distorted shapes trying to make sense of them. In that moment, the cutout seemed alive to some viewers, and with no internet to verify anything, rumors traveled fast and easily. The ghost story turned into one of the most talked about mysteries of the VHS age, all because of a simple prop and blurry tape lines. The legend even helped the movie make more money after its theatrical run. Rental stores saw people coming in specifically to hunt for the ghost. Some stores reported that demand doubled. The story ended up printed in national magazines like People. The mystery created a second wave of attention, pulling people back to the movie for another look. Word of mouth pushed rentals higher and made the VHS version a must-see for anyone curious enough to search for the strange figure behind the curtains. Eventually, conspiracy theories started forming. Some people believed Disney edited out the ghost in later releases. Others swore the studio blocked TV broadcasts to hide supernatural proof. None of it was true. Every version of the movie, from the earliest VHS to modern high-definition copies, shows the same cardboard cutout in the same place. The idea that Disney tried to cover anything up came from the rumor itself, not from any real change in the film. Another part of the mystery came from how the scene was shot. First, viewers noticed something that looked like a rifle leaning against the window. Then, around 40 seconds later, what looked like a small boy appeared behind the curtains. Some people believed the two things had nothing to do with each other. In reality, both images were different angles of the same cardboard cutout. The top hat and long shape created the illusion of a rifle from one angle, and a childlike figure from another. On a low-quality VHS tape, the illusion became even stronger. A simple camera angle trick turned into a decades-long rumor. Finally, when the truth spread online and people watched the high-definition version, the whole thing looked almost funny. Reddit users joked about how this might be the dumbest urban legend ever because the explanation was so simple. People laughed about spending years discussing a ghost that was obviously just a cardboard cutout. Yet the story stayed alive. It became a reminder of how people fill gaps with imagination, especially when the picture is blurry and the mystery is tempting. Tom Selleck remembered the moment with a smile. It was February 6, 2017, on The Tonight Show, and the film had just hit its 30-year mark. For decades, people swore they saw a ghost in Three Men and a Baby. A pale little boy behind the curtains, something eerie, something mysterious. Tom joked that even he believed it for a while. Then he explained the truth in the simplest way. It wasn't a ghost at all. It was a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson wearing a tuxedo, left behind from a deleted scene. The shoot happened on a soundstage, not inside some old haunted house, and the prop was simply forgotten during editing. Tom laughed about it, and even said the myth probably boosted their VHS sales because everyone wanted to see the spooky moment for themselves. Disney later confirmed the story and called it a mistake, not a haunting. Just a cardboard actor hiding where he wasn't supposed to be. Margaret Cullen spoke about it the same way. She played Rebecca, and she heard the ghost questions more times than she could count. In one Entertainment Weekly interview, she said the ghost was just Ted Danson in a top hat and tails, printed on a life-size board. It was supposed to be part of Jack's stage memorabilia. After the cut, the crew forgot to move it. Margaret said the legend helped the movie's rentals. She even laughed about profiting from it. What annoyed her was how many people refused to believe the truth, even after she explained it. Viewers insisted they saw a ghost, not a prop. The fact that the cutout appears clearly in other scenes only made the conspiracy grow because fans started studying every frame. The more they explained, the stronger the myth became. Steve Guttenberg also felt the ghost overshadowed the movie. He said the mystery followed them for years. Fans asked about it more than the plot, the characters, or anything else. He thought it was funny at first, then a little tiring. The studio already explained the truth. The cast explained it too. Still, people wanted the supernatural version. He was asked about it at conventions in the 1990s and even decades later, as if something paranormal really wandered across their set. Steve joked that mistakes sometimes outlive the movies themselves, and this one turned into a legend that refused to die. Even at events, the cast couldn't escape the same question. The ghost myth started right after the VHS release, and once it caught fire, it spread everywhere. People claimed they paused the tape and saw eyes staring back. They brought freeze frames to conventions. They argued. They insisted the cardboard was placed differently in the ghost shot. The cast kept saying the same thing each time. It was Ted Danson. It was a cutout. It was harmless. But urban legends don't care about explanations. They survive on imagination. The myth made the movie part of a bigger cultural conversation. Long after most comedies fade away, Leonard Nimoy stayed quiet about the whole thing. He directed the movie, but he never spoke publicly about the ghost before he passed away in 2015. Maybe he found the story too silly. Maybe he didn't think it mattered. The film was shot on a controlled soundstage. Nothing mysterious happened there. Still, his silence kept people guessing. It made the legend stronger. When a director says nothing, fans fill that silence with whatever story feels the most exciting. Three Men and a Baby carried one more bit of history. Its roots came from a 1985 French film called Trois Hommes et un Couffin. The original had a heroin dealer subplot. A package full of drugs arrives at the apartment by mistake. When Hollywood remade it, they kept the idea but softened it. The package ended up filled with baby formula and diapers. The dark edge became a silly misunderstanding. Yet rumors kept spreading that a trace of the heroin plot was still hidden somewhere in the American version. Fans imagined lost scenes or secret symbols. It showed how quickly people reshape films in their minds, especially when they already believe the story has hidden shadows. Filming itself brought its own battles. The baby on screen was actually a pair of twins, Lisa and Michelle Blair. Each twin could only work a few minutes each day, because child labor laws for infants are extremely strict, so the crew had to shoot between naps and feedings and tiny bursts of calm. Sometimes one twin cried, sometimes the other refused to look at the camera. Scenes were repeated again and again until the babies finally cooperated. The schedule stretched longer than expected. Crew members joked that the twins were the real directors, controlling everything with their moods. Leonard Nimoy, making his directorial debut outside Star Trek, pushed the cast hard. Steve Guttenberg said Nimoy could be intense. Tom Selleck and Ted Danson also argued with him about how scenes should be shaped. Nimoy wanted multiple takes. The actors wanted to move faster. Both Selleck and Danson were juggling top TV shows at the same time, and every argument meant more stress on the schedule. But Nimoy's attention to detail made the film feel polished in the end. The warm tone on screen didn't show the friction behind the cameras. It was the kind of tension that often comes with a hit. The scheduling was one of the hardest parts. Tom Selleck had Magnum P.I. Ted Danson had Cheers. Both were in the middle of peak popularity. To make the movie work, they bounced between sets. Sometimes Selleck flew across the country the same day just to squeeze in a scene. Danson timed his work around tapings. Weekends became workdays. Scenes were shot out of order. Reshoots happened during tiny gaps. It was a puzzle the crew had to solve every single week. And somehow, they did it, using every minute they could find. Their effort paid off, because the film became a massive box office success. There were mistakes too. One of the funniest bloopers happened in the elevator scene. Vince stands there and complains that the elevator is too slow. But if you look close, the background behind him doesn't move at all. The elevator is supposed to be rising, yet the backdrop stays perfectly still. Editors missed it, and it stayed in the final cut. Some people wondered if it was intentional. Most people never noticed until someone pointed it out. It became one of the film's most famous goofs, listed right there on its IMDb page. When the sequel arrived in 1990, the momentum continued. Three Men and a Little Lady opened with $19.1 million from 1,281 theaters. It ranked second at the box office that weekend, right behind Home Alone. Its total across the United States reached $71.6 million, which matched its worldwide number exactly. It is rare for domestic and international earnings to match like that. The movie stayed in the top 5 for 3 straight weeks. It opened in Los Angeles and New York on November 21st, then across the country on November 23rd. The numbers proved how loyal fans were to the original cast. Leonard Nimoy did not return for the sequel. Emile Ardolino stepped in. He brought his own style, leaning more on physical comedy than character humor. Guttenberg once joked that the original felt like 4 men and a baby because Nimoy was involved in everything. Without him, the set felt different, but Ardolino kept the film steady. The budget was about $16 million, and the shooting stayed brisk. His approach gave the sequel a lighter rhythm that stood apart from the first film. All 3 main men came back: Tom Selleck, Steve Guttenberg, Ted Danson, and Nancy Travis returned. Mary was now played by Robin Wiseman, aged up to a 5-year-old girl. That opened the door for new jokes, new challenges, and new emotional moments. Sylvia's move to England and her upcoming marriage created the central conflict. The 3 men traveled across the Atlantic, ran into every kind of cultural confusion, and stumbled into their usual chaos. Fans appreciated that the family they loved was still intact. The film felt like a natural continuation. Talks of a 3rd movie lasted from 2010 to 2013. They even had a working title, 3 Men and a Bride. Disney explored the idea. Tom Selleck discussed it publicly, but the project never moved forward. In 2020, Disney announced a remake for Disney Plus with Zac Efron attached. Even that has not appeared yet. Fans still hope for another chapter, imagining Mary as a teenager and the men trying to keep up with her. But for now, the franchise remains quiet. The sequel from 1990 stands as the final piece of the story, carried forward by streaming platforms and nostalgia.